Allowing a partnership to grow and to heal takes a lot of work on all sides. Today's episode is a conversation with me and my husband, Rich, and we talk about the growth that's happened in our own relationship. It's such an opportunity for us to step more fully, not only into how we can show up for others, but how we can heal ourselves. And after 32 years of marriage, both being recovered alcoholics, raising kids who are addicts and ADHD, going through incredibly difficult years, and coming out the other side is not luck. It's from hard work. It's from soul recovery. And this is an episode about us sharing that experience together. There's always hope, but the hope is that we find peace within ourselves. And in that internal peace and that internal healing, we can share it in relationship with the other. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, codependency, and control addiction. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and soul recovery to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we need to turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on our inner change and healing. Positive results in our lives will follow. Welcome to Recover Your Soul. I'm Rev Rachel, and thank you for joining me for the Recover Your Soul podcast and being part of the Recover Your Soul community. We are here indeed to do the work to be okay when everyone around us may or may not be okay. And that's a wild ride of a journey. And I'm honored and privileged to be sitting here today in my living room, drinking morning coffee with my sweet husband, Rich. Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming on to the podcast again.
With my coffee.
With your coffee.
My pleasure.
With coffee talk. So you were asking me, well, what do we want to talk about? And there's a bazillion things for us to talk about. So it's been, I think the last time you were on the podcast was last fall after we had our little awakening.
Time flies.
Time flies. And here we are in March. So I'm first going to start by saying happy 1 year sober anniversary, Rich.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It went really fast.
Yeah. How does that feel for you?
Excellent. Because I guess at this point I can say I've been virtually, is my word, or California sober for, it's been a long time, ever since your 7 years plus some bouts of good short-term sobriety, when you add it all up. But to have the clean record of finally recovered a year again is nice.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. And it's interesting because you and I have that story about going into that particular psychiatrist when I was pregnant with Alex, who told us we were alcoholics. And if we had just listened to her then. So
that was nearly, 28 years ago.
28 years ago.
That's nuts.
It is nuts. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On a year.
You are a great help and influence on me. And I love you dearly. And you have helped me do it.
Well, let's talk about that. So if our audience, if our community members are people who have people in their lives who are working on their own sobriety journeys, talk a little bit more about what has been helpful to you in that, maybe places that I've done something different that allowed you to make a longer stride of decision for yourself.
I think it's what you haven't done. It's more subtle. It's not a fixing, or it's not a you got to do this or else. It's not a I'm doing this and you need to do it too. We have to choose for ourselves, and I think just more of a deep understanding, love, and support, and consistency that you've brought through Recover Your Soul and through your 7 years. It's just incredible. It's been that long. Is the environment in which I was able to stop having that little glitch of, the classic alcoholic glitch. Well, maybe one is okay, which wasn't for me. And then I'm just finally there. I mean, my early sobriety was really great because it was about choosing to be an athlete or a drinker. Mm-hmm. That was my reason. Then I started playing music, And I think that's mostly the trigger that, I'd be out and I'd have a couple NA beers and then I'd be like, screw it, I'm going to have a real one. And then there was also blended in this sort of loneliness for that answer that I always had. I mean, my whole life was drinking to celebrate or drinking when I felt good, drinking with almost anything. And I went back to, I don't know how to describe it perfectly. It's like a reaching back to rediscover that little piece of feel good.
Euphoric youth.
That was the last piece. And we've been talking about my relapse journey here in the past, you're 7 years or what? I've lost count, whatever.
Basically for 4 years, because it was 3 years in that you came to me and said, well, I actually haven't been totally sober. So it's been a ride. But I want to give you total credit, Rich, because I've said this in the podcast before. If you were drinking, it would be a very different thing. But it was experimenting. It was this continued kind of, I just have a beer here, or sort of out in the world having stuff. And I think the hard part for me was that it would be like that you weren't telling me.
Yeah.
Right. That it was a year had gone by. And so then a trust situation came up. But what I want to give you credit for throughout all of it, 100%, is really that you have been on a soul recovery journey this entire time. So just because you're a year completely free of drinking is not the marker of soul recovery. You have been doing this work of trying to really heal. And it's not soul recovery like I'm teaching soul recovery. You're not doing the 9 steps like I've laid out, but you're doing it in your own path. So in that space, people often say, well, you've stayed with Rich, and so I want to stay with my spouse because I see what you've done. But you have done so much work to really heal a lot of yourself. And my ask has always been to be on a spiritual journey of your own making. So I just want to give you credit that you are indeed doing that. And I think that's what makes it so that we can be here today, really encouraging each other to be our fullest selves. And it isn't that one person's doing all the work and the other person isn't.
I think we're crediting each other because I think I alluded to this coming into the conversation. And I'll say it in this way, that I feel very lucky and grateful just to be your husband and to have the environment and the increasing safety and natural experience and expression and development of our soul recovery. So I'm lucky to have you. And I feel for those out there that are kind of alone in the journey. So I think you and I have a unique situation. We've been through very tough things together. We almost didn't make it. We have had challenging portions of this work, and we've just made it to a good place here. I don't intend to sabotage that anymore.
That's nice.
It's so easy to self-sabotage, and it's so bloody easy. And I think I'm done with that. I did these little bouts of self-sabotage, and like you say, it erodes trust. It doesn't even have to be a big thing. It can be subtle, but have a not so great, little nasty hook in it.
Yeah, I think safety, I talk a lot about the difference between trust and safety. Like trust has this element that says, I need you to do what I want you to do for me to feel okay, which has a control level in it. And safety to me is something that I remember when we first got sober and had our friend that was having those meetings with us and teaching us how to actually talk to each other without pointing the finger so much or not listening. And she gave us all these great tools on that. And she really used the word safety, that we didn't have safety in our relationship. And that's been really important to me to differentiate between the trust and safety, because safety is really fundamental in being able to be really engaged in your relationship in a way where you can be vulnerable, you can be open, you can really allow yourself to lean in ways that make you feel like that person's your rock, is that you need to feel safe in that space. Otherwise, we're in the fight or flight all the time. And I think that's the value of what you and I have, is that we've been working diligently on that for a long time now. And when we had our little blip last fall, one of the things that I think was interesting about it was that we were looking actually at a deeper level of, do we really feel safe here? Are we really digging in? And you were the one that actually brought up in a conversation in the car. You'd gone to therapy a couple times, and then you were willing to have a tough conversation and say, you know what, I'm raising my hand and recognizing I don't feel 100% safe here. And that allowed us to move into more conversations and continue to work on our journey together. Do you want to reflect on that?
I think you have to give a lot in a relationship for safety. I think that the natural position can be, well, I want to feel safe. What does it take to make me feel safe? Give me you need to do something to make me feel safe. I think in the end, I learned, I'm emotional. It's the weirdest thing.
I love it. That
just a couple of words that mean something to me all of a sudden trigger my emotions, which don't even come out that easy normally. I learned that I needed to give you true listening, as well as my requests, my needs. I needed to say what my needs were, but I needed to give that I needed to learn how to get to a higher place and open the space in a giving, compassionate, empathic, all of the above way to get the results that I need to get the safety.
And I appreciate that. I love that your heart comes and that your tears come. It's so beautiful. That part of you that developed even richer in the time after that conversation, and then you started working with a therapist, really has brought us to another level. And I would say that since then, our ability to have difficult conversations and move into deeper levels has really exponentially improved.
And so if I can get off my emotion train right here and talk, I think it's also when I came to you and I said, Rach, there is a grit in life that I need to talk about. And historically, I'll just say as a family, didn't want to go back and reference the past. I struggled with that because it's like, well, you got to reference it and acknowledge the grit so that we can make progress. And my goal was always to say, hey, we're doing better because we're doing the work. Maybe we were here and it's gritty and it's hard, but all the love that we always had in our family, thank God it won out, even with our kids. And it's so cool to see 4 addicts make it.
And there's still grit. I mean, I think that the thing that's so interesting, we went to California. We were there for the birth of Rocky, our grandson. It was a complicated birth. You were there for part of the time. I was there for the rest of the time. Alex shared some of his, a lot of emotion was coming up for him because it's a big deal.
Around me, right?
Right. And
Dad, yeah.
And we were able to talk about it in ways that I don't think we would have been able to in the past with as much success, to actually process it in a healthy way and share with each other what was going on without defensiveness, without judgment, and to be curious in a way that gave so much safety around it. And that's, for me, that's the hugest success, because life is going to continue to be complicated.
And we can expand on that a little bit. Alex and I have like deep love, but a very unresolved relationship. Almost an undeveloped relationship. And then he has a grandson. And I think there's a lot of opportunity and glorious love and opportunity yet to come. But it just feels like there's a lot of potential to build it in for he and I. It's a great opportunity around our beautiful grandson. So there's that. There's things to be done with Alex and I, big time. And it used to be the issue between you and I that would result in the most strain. And then I want to open this up for you. I don't know how much you want to share, but then you come home from the trip, right? And you're loaded.
Mm-hmm.
You came home loaded. In the past, that would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
That could just so easily light a match on the kerosene between you and I.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I was in a good spot to receive you. And then I turn it over to you. I mean, you could talk about it.
Yeah, you did a beautiful job. And that was that place that you're talking about learning how to really hold space for me, for you to step in and hold space for me was so beautiful. And it gives me safety. It goes back to the safety. It's like one of the things that your therapist had you read was a book about masculine, feminine, right? What is healthy masculine to step into? And it gave you more information, I think, and it gave us some interesting information about when I step into my masculine, when I compete with you in that space, but it allowed us to stop competing somewhere. And so when I got off the airplane and I was just so filled with all these thoughts and feelings and everything, and to really be received by you, to hear me in that situation gave me that safety, to really feel like you are my rock. And I want that so much. And that's something that I think that we've developed in our relationship because we both want it so bad, but it wasn't there for so long. Like one of your things that you've come to me is that the fear of my leaving, is such a painful pain point to you. And I think I have a fear of you not being there for me. And so when we really look at as human beings on this wild ride of our earth school, our earth journey, that we're in it learning and growing from each other. And that's the healthy place. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean that it always works out just right. It doesn't mean it isn't without conflict, but it means that we're more and more conscious of how to be in a more healed state so that we can allow each other to individually do the work. So when we're in the car and you're just allowing me, you're receiving me, and I was totally filled with all of my emotions. And I was able to tell you, about what I was scared of or, what Alex had reflected. And you received it so beautifully.
You also didn't turn it into a grand, the sky's falling freaking explosion. Our family is doomed.
We're succeeding. Look at us. We're doing it.
Which historically, like blows up into something bigger. And that's what I used to resist so bad. I'm like, then that would just throw me off. And we're just doing so much better.
So much better.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately my awareness of what soul recovery offers, and again, what I love is that you don't have to do the 9-step soul recovery process to have success.
I intend to. I've just been letting you do your thing, and time flies. I just cannot believe that it's 7 years for you technically and 1 for me. And within that time, I've just been enjoying watching you flourish and do your thing. And I'm almost kind of like intentionally keeping myself on the sidelines out of humility or whatever the heck it is. I don't like a ton of limelight, but I intend to. Journey down the 9 steps here.
Well, when the book comes out, you can read the book.
There you go.
There you go.
I'll do it with the book.
Yeah. Are you ready to step into your soul recovery? Visit the website recoveryoursoul.net to learn more about the 9-step soul recovery process. I hope that you'll join us the first Monday of every month for the free soul recovery support group on Zoom, where we learn more about soul recovery and connect with each other. If you'd like to work directly with me to move through the 9-step soul recovery process, I'm here for you, but you can also choose to work the steps on your own with individual modules intended to support you to work at your own pace and on your own time. And if you want even more soul recovery, join us for the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast for Patreon members and Apple Podcast subscribers, where I interview amazing people sharing soul recovery tips for us and also do spiritual book studies. You can also find daily inspiration on Facebook and Instagram and join our private Facebook community. Visit the website for more information, links, and registration for everything. Back to the episode. Which I think is actually cute because I bought the Audible of Just Let 'Em by Mel Robbins, because you and I both love Mel Robbins. And you started listening to it when we were in California and you went and drove down to go surf with Bodhi. And it reflects so much of what soul recovery offers. So tell me a little bit about what you felt about the Just Let 'Em. Hi, it's Rev Rachel, and I'm just taking a quick break to check in with you about the upcoming retreats and workshops in 2025. I know for me, part of my recovery was around meeting in groups and connecting on that deeper level. And so the opportunity for us to come together in retreats, either in person or virtually, helps us to remember that we are not doing it alone, to be able to learn about the 9-step soul recovery process in community, and to be with me personally to receive the teaching and to get that feedback and support one-on-one that is so impactful. I'm going to be having retreats both in Sacramento, California, and also in my neck of the woods in Colorado, and even a virtual retreat if you can't travel. Please check out the website, recoveryoursoul.net, to learn more, and I hope you'll join me this year. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul.
It just made so much sense. It tied in. I mean, you and I had conversations, again, to give ourselves credit. We had late conversations about going there and being prepared for things not to go perfectly. Mm-hmm. And so listening to Mel in that book, it was just an automatic reinforcement of allowing space, allowing everybody's experience to occur, allowing some chaos to go off the rails, and just try to be a solid person in the mix and a good influence. And sometimes less is more. Mm-hmm. The less you do, the better. We were just there for them. Mm-hmm. And if people could realize that trick, that angle, that hack, just be there. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to engage the chaos. And I think that's what sobriety and soul recovery strengthens in a person, is the ability to support without overacting.
Right. Detachment, the healthy detachment. You know, it's interesting because I've been looking at that picture of us when we were the same age that Alex and Lexi are, with Alex as a little baby, right? And it's this hysterical 28-year-old picture of these two young people with horrible haircuts,
Horrible haircut photo,
like an Olin Mills or something like that,
yes.
Or Sears or something.
Yes. Perfect.
And this little baby sitting, it's just such a hokey picture. And it just seems like forever ago. And then here we have our own children that are at that phase in their life, and how much I want to impart upon them this wisdom. And of course, the main thing that I want is I want to save them from having to go through some of the hardships that we went through. And yet I have more and more clarity all the time that those challenges, that those hardships, that those pieces are what build us into our character of who we are.
That's living a real life. So don't take it away from somebody. Yeah.
I often say the success that we have, you do a reference of the past, and I think you're getting healthier and healthier about not judging the difference, but having the reference from a healthier place. Because I do think that sometimes you have to have a touchback, but like I've shared with you the feedback that if you say, I like you so much now, you're so much better than you used to be.
That's a family joke between you and me. That's a family
joke where I'm like, you don't have to say I'm so much better than I used to be.
But we are talking about all of our successes. So
like, how do you allow yourself to be really present in what is? And maybe that reflection is like, I'm so grateful that we're here now. But at the same time, it is the past that creates who we are.
Yeah.
And so if I am always reflecting on like how painful it was, I'm going to be in that pain a lot. And so I think what happens sometimes when we all get together is there is this healing that's happening within all of us that is really beautiful. And it does include some of the sticky stuff resurfacing. But because we're all looking at it from a more healed perspective, it doesn't stay. It's more like the sticky stuff comes up to be revealed and to be healed. But we are each responsible on our own journey to decide how we are individually going to do that. And the more that I let go of the boys and how they're doing it, and I let go of you and how you're doing it, the more we are actually all stepping into the healing in our own way, if we so choose.
I have a thought I'm hoping I can articulate, which relates to good old Eckhart Tolle and the power of now, which is, I think the error is falling into your mind and body and the emotion of your past body and dealing with something in the present versus knowing, relaxing into everything you've learned that is in you in the now and acting on it from the now of the person you've become. And the slippery slope is we can just go pop and be in our past body, or call it your pain body, which is also an Eckhart term, and approach it from there, even partially. You just it's hard to explain, right? But it's a beautiful thing when you don't pull your pain body or your victim story or anything, any of the pain, you don't pull it forward from the past. All you do is automatically have what you learned from that in the now, and then approach whatever's happening from a place of love and new understanding and learned tools.
Exactly. I mean, that's what soul recovery process teaches, is that those old beliefs, those old stories, those old patterns, until we recognize them, you can't transverse them into new ways of being, but they're there to give you something.
It's information to be transmuted to now for all its best parts, not old pain.
Right.
Yeah.
So then one of my awarenesses that I had in this past trip is that reminder again that I have, that I so want to save my children from any pain, any difficulty. I don't want it to be hard for them. I had this fairy tale of what having a baby would be like.
That wasn't exactly Lexi's experience.
No. And then bless her little heart, she had a hard delivery. And then
Lexi, I love you. Trooper. Shout out to you. So beautifully tough.
Yeah, no, she's
our boy
a powerhouse.
Alex, you guys were great.
They did a beautiful job. And so then I came home, and I've had a week at home now, and back into what I have so much more awareness around all the time, around the life that you and I have very consciously cultivated and created and worked hard for, and created a safety and a peace and a kindness to each other and a routine that is an oasis. It's a place where we can come and really reset, so that you can go out in the world and have it be complex, and that we can be a rock for each other, and that we are each other's safe place. And I think that's what we always wanted in the first place, and we did it.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, because you can get so into your routine that you're taking little things for granted. And we're so blessed, and I'm so grateful to every time I come through my front door, I'm home, and it's a beautiful thing.
That's what the journey is about. If you are in a relationship, it's the greatest spiritual sandpaper that you can have, to get to the polish. Yeah. But I think what I really want to say kind of lastly for us is, one of the things I respect about us and our relationship, and it goes back to the vows that we made. I was doing a wedding for somebody, and I pulled out our vows, And their vows were very much around like being super connected and everything was together. And I went back and read our vows, and our vows were really about individuality.
Turns out,
about us keeping ourselves and walking along each other's paths, but not on the same path, drink from Gajil Bibran, whatever his name is. Anyway, drink from the same cup, but, the separate cups.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's wild that if you really look at what we said in our vows to each other, it was this individuation. And I think that's the place where I'm grateful for us, because we have put, I think, more energy than we did before on our individual growth alongside each other.
Yeah.
And in that, it's actually bringing us together.
In between, we got knotted up in the codependency and the fixing each other. And I want to raise the kids like this. Oh, well, no, that's not how you do it. All that stuff, which is life. Again, if somebody was trying to fix us and telling us, oh, you're doing it wrong, that would have just added to the mess. So in between, it got really messy for us. But here we are at the bookends, and it's a really wonderful reflection of the beginning to now that they're lining up.
And it doesn't mean there won't be grit.
Of course, there's more to come. I'm warning you, Rach, there's more to come. Oh. But we'll be better for it.
Yeah. I really recognize how resistant I've been to the grit. And now I have a different relationship with it.
You've gotten grittier in a very beautiful way.
Well, thank you.
If that makes any sense.
Thank you.
Makes sense to me.
And we're in a new chapter. I mean, ultimately, I really reflected on having our oldest child have a child and looking at those pictures of myself with my silver hair and crow's feet eyes. And you just go, wow, we really are at this phase in life that's this whole other chapter.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful chapter because it's really where we get to reap the rewards of all of the complex nature of what it is to be alive. And we've learned some of the really hard lessons so that we can be present in a way that allows us to kind of really flourish in who we here to be. Wherever
you're at, whatever station, whatever age, just be good to yourself and accept where you're at. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. And it's not, I'm at a place I want everybody to know that's not exactly easy, this age I'm at. Late 50s. I find it challenging. I'm hoping with all the work, I'll get to the sunset of the decade of my 60s and just really be in place where I'm at. And I just want to send that out to everybody that listens to your podcast. Be good to yourself wherever you're at. And that includes hard times and the best of times.
Yeah, beautifully said. We're not even going to go into all that today, but I love that you brought that out because it's not like it's peaches and roses every single day. We're actually walking through changes in health, changes in physical fitness, changes in job, like having kids have kids, looking at the political situation, parents who are aging. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but instead of drowning it away in drinks, which is what we used to do, and then fighting and being incredibly miserable, we're really just being present in it. And there's a lot of peace in this space.
And I can remember being newly recovered, or newly sober, and all of those things you just mentioned, because that was a really solid list. That was very realistic. It just feels like it hits you in the chest, like a boulder hitting you in the chest because you've been numbing it for so long. You've had this system of intoxication to numb. And I had it forever. And when I was first sober, it was like a panic attack. Just life hitting me in the chest was like a panic attack. It takes a while, but that's what goes away slowly, and beautiful things fill in, which we've talked about through this podcast, and you get to a peaceful place.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing a more Rachel and Rich life marriage experience, and as we move into the next chapter. And I appreciate the work that you've been doing and being my rock.
My pleasure. Love you.
I love you too. Until next time, namaste. Thank you for listening, and I hope that helps support your soul recovery process. Just Just a reminder that every Friday is the Recover Your Soul bonus podcast. This podcast is for Patreon members and Apple Podcast subscribers. And not only do you get an incredible interview or book study that comes with being part of that community, but your subscribing helps support this podcast and the Recover Your Soul community. If you want to listen to those bonus episodes but can't subscribe right now, do know that you can be a free Patreon member and have access for limited time to new episodes. Visit the website recoveryoursoul.net or check out the show links below for coupons and information for upcoming events. I thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends and family. I thank you for giving it 5 stars, and the reviews that are left bring tears to my eyes. I am honored to be part of your life. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. The Recover Your Soul podcast and its content is for educational purposes only and is not allied or representative of any organizations or religions. It's based on the opinions and experience of Reverend Rachel Harrison. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility to any persons or entity for any liability, loss, damage, or cause alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of its use. Applications or interpretations of the information represented herein. Take what you need and leave the rest.